And I mentioned earlier the idea of ridicule. What is ridicule? Ridicule is the act of making fun of someone or something in a cruel or harsh way.
Is it bullying? Kids form of bullying?
Yes, it is. That's one form of ridicule, bullying. It's the act of.
Excuse me, sure you say kids? I was just asking Shirley a question.
Yes, I was just asking for another example of ridicule would be bullying.
Oh, okay.
Here nationwide, bullying for the last couple of years have been put out there, and schools try to push it and say, what does it look like? What form does it come in?
Mm-hmm.
So for the kids to understand, to say, think of bullying, and that's just another form. We know as adults, we look at that word and we go, okay, we kind of may know, but for the kids, for them to associate it with bullying.
Okay.
They talk about that in school a lot. I know up here, and I'm pretty sure in Florida, nationwide, they talk about bullying different of it a lot.
I just wanted to add something to that. Adults, so the kids can understand too that adults can be bullies too. Kids that are bullies sometimes grow up to be adults that are bullies, and sometimes adults just can be a bully. So just to let them know too that adults can be that same way.
That's exactly right. And what are adults but kids in big bodies, right?
Exactly.
So
I wanted to add to that, Shirley. That's why I was asking that question. Thank you.
And so what we have to recognize is, see, if we don't connect the dots of what's actually happening, then it goes on and continues to control our lives. It goes on and continue to make life difficult for us. See, ridicule, and again, arm wrestling, right? If you're not careful, when someone ridicules you, it will distract you, and it will prevent you. It'll tie up your time thinking about it, and it will prevent you from moving forward. And sometimes when someone ridicules you, what they do and say is the force that's preventing you from focusing on the things that you plan to accomplish that day. It's a distraction. And when we don't have the power, when people get their attention gets completely drawn into that thing, what that thing has done is successfully taken them off of their game. I want to go back to an example one time that Jordan shared with us at a track meet one time. How that he said that they would go down to the start line to get ready to run, and they were just being friendly with kids, speaking to them. And some of the kids were down there talking noise. They were down there talking noise about, they're finna do this and they're finna do that. And if you're not careful, what this is called the mind games, right? These are mind games. And the mind games basically are intended to do that, to create a force that'll keep you from achieving your goal. To get something in your mind that'll keep you from using your gifts and talents properly so that you can put it all together and win. Someone making fun.
Quick comment. Have you seen that movie? What is it? Red Iron Gang?
No, I have not.
Thinking about the same thing. It's a good example of what we saw yesterday. Shirley and I and Allegra saw a movie.
Okay.
With the wrestler in this Gridiron Gang. Where the guys talk noise at the football game.
Yeah.
To get them off their game.
To get them off your game.
They did. Until they realized, that they had confidence. And the coach had to teach them that, But anyway, that's a good movie. That's a good example. That's what I was going to say too, Shirley.
And so what I'm trying to get everybody to see is strength. Our strength is on display when we when we plan to go through our day and we plan to execute our day the way that when we manage our time through our day and we get through our day and we accomplish the things that we desire to accomplish that day, our strength is on display. Our ability is on display. But when we come against forces that throw roadblocks in the way, we come against forces that distract you and prevent you from being it, those forces, and if you don't notice them for what they are, those forces can throw your life off track. So you have to notice them for what they are. Ridicule is one of those things. Harsh comments made by people who are laughing at somebody or something. Ridicule. Well, ridicule didn't just start today or since that movie was made. Ridicule has been going. People ridiculing people has been going on for a long time.
The guy's name was Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, okay. The Rock.
Rock, yeah, that's who it is. Yeah, The Rock.
Yeah, nickname The Rock. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to show you an example of ridicule in the Bible. Go over with me to Genesis 37.
And by the way, it's based on a true story.
Oh, okay. Now I got to check that out then. Genesis 37 and 5. This is the story, by the way, of Joseph. But I want you to pay attention to this portion of this story about Joseph. Genesis 37:5. Let me have a reader, please.
And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more.
Pause right there for me for a moment. The Bible said that Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told them. And then the Bible goes on to say how his brethren felt about him after he told them about the dream. Continue reading.
And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. So behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my chest. Shall thou indeed reign over us? Or shall thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words.
So now notice their feelings about him because of what he is saying. Continue.
And he dreamed yet another dream and told it to his brother and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brother indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth?
Listen to what's happening here. Joseph dreamed a dream, and look at the reaction of the people around him. Now, who are these people?
His family.
His family. What I'm trying to get you to see, ridicule doesn't just come from people that you meet outside of your house. Ridicule comes from people in your house if you're not careful. Continue.
His brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying.
So listen. We know what the story was. We're not gonna go through the whole story of Joseph, but I want you to understand this interaction. Their feelings and sentiments about this thing caused them to treat Joseph unfair. It caused them to treat him in a harsh way, didn't it?
Yes.
The story of Joseph says, and you can continue to read it at your leisure, it says that his brethren sold him into slavery because they didn't like what he was saying. They ridiculed him. So they didn't treat him. They didn't say good things about him. Now, I want you to understand that ridicule, again, we're talking about the act of making fun of someone. We talked about bullying, right? The idea of bullying. Well, the idea of bullying is just this. It's ridicule. And that's typically, unfortunately, what many gangs do. They bully, like the movie brought out. And the point that we have to understand is that these are things, when we encounter these things, we reach our end of our strength. Joseph had no recourse. He had no recourse. He didn't know, so he thought. Only thing he knew is that this is what God had shown him. But he had no way to prove any of the things that he said. But recognize the end of his story. Did these things, according to the end of this story in Genesis about Joseph, did these things that Joseph saw, they come true eventually?
Yes.
Yes, they did. But at this point in time in his life, he even got ridiculed by his parents. You're going to reign over us? So whenever we hear somebody ridiculing somebody, and this is what happens many times, kids do this, and they do this to some kids, they make them feel so bad until some kids, they lose strength, and they lose so much strength that they want to destroy themselves. They want to try to do harm to themselves. That's what happens. That's what's been happening in today's time. We've seen a lot of that. But some kids can be so harsh, they can be so insensitive that they can cause kids to just give up. What they're doing when they give up, they've lost strength. They've lost the ability to resist the force that's coming against them. So what happens in the course of their day? If they were planning on going to school and doing well in the class, this force that comes against them, somebody talking about them, this force becomes a distraction. They don't pay attention in class, so they don't do the work like they should be doing. So therefore, they begin to be destroyed in the form of grades. They're not active, so they begin to be destroyed in the fact of being isolated. I'm trying to get you to see the forces, these things, this ridicule is a force. It is a force. This is why the Bible tells us in St. Matthew, let's go there. And we're walking in the word here. St. Matthew 7, verse 1.
Judge not that he be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye met, it shall be measured to you again.
The Bible declares unto us, judge that you be not judged. And that's what ridiculing is. This is why we have to be careful about ridiculing other people. In today's time, it is popular for people to make fun. But anything in the hands of somebody irresponsible goes too far. Today's time is popular for people to have guns as adults. But any gun in the hand of people that are not responsible ends up being a bad situation. I'm not on that today, but I'm just trying to get you to see the scope of this matter. So the Bible just says, judge that you be not judged. Be careful about you making fun of others. This is what children and youth like to do. This is what turns into bullying, judging people, talking about people in cruel ways, harsh ways. But the Bible said for us to treat people the way that we want to be treated. In other words, judge not, so that people won't judge you. Because the Bible said the same way you judge somebody else, they're going to judge you. In other words, you have to recognize you can't put yourself in that space. The Bible goes on to clarify this even further for us. Continue reading, please.
And why beholdest thou the mote that is not in thy brother's eye?
That is in thy brother's eye. Mm-hmm.
In thy brother's eye, but consider it not the beam that is in the thine own eye.
So the Bible says you got to look at what's not only the beam that is in somebody else's eye, you got to look at what's in your own eye. All this is being done to help us recognize socially about this notion of interacting, notion of making fun of someone or something in a cruel or harsh way. Comments made by people who are laughing at somebody or something. How that kind of thing is not a good thing. Now, this happened also to Moses. We're not going to go there today, but you may remember Moses went to Pharaoh. And when Moses went to Pharaoh for the first time to give Pharaoh the message that God had given him about letting God's people go, was Pharaoh by himself, or was he in his palace with his guards and all of his servants that serve him?
And he had people there.
He had his people there, didn't he? So when Moses went there and made this request to let God's people go, did Pharaoh comply?
No.
No, he didn't. But began to ridicule Moses. And when someone is being ridiculed, again, let's go back to arm wrestling. When you are losing, it doesn't feel good when you're losing. And I'm sure that Moses felt that what God said was going to immediately begin to happen. But he got set back. Just like as you go through your day, you may plan for things to happen a certain way and you get set back because of forces that are not planned. Understand our true strength, it comes from God. Because when we've reached the end of our strength, and this is what you see this often when people are being ridiculed, are being bullied. When you reach the end of your strength, the person who is on the receiving end of this harsh or cruel treatment, you often don't know what to do. But what the Lord is trying to encourage us is that he is our true strength. He is our Redeemer. He is the one that turns matters around for us. But the same thing, that's not the only place, though, where our strength is needed. See, it was, when you think back on Joseph, it was God who gave Joseph the strength to continue to believe that he was going to, that thing was going to happen that God showed him. Joseph still continued to try to honor God. Although he continued to be set back, put in prison, talked about, unappreciated, he still held to the goal that God had placed in his heart. And he still honored God. And because of it, the Lord began to make him ascend. The Lord opened doors that man could not have opened. So much so that the dream that he had about ruling over his family came true. But not only did he rule over his family, he ruled over everybody in the land. Because God elevated him. We run out of strength when we don't know what to do. But we have to have some additional help. The Bible defines this word strength, by the way. The biblical definition for this word strength is support. Support. When I hurt my leg when I was little, and I had that heat rash, I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. I ran out of options. The first person I thought of that I'd been trained to go to was Mom. And it was through her support that I was able to receive, I was able to move forward in life. I was able to get past the heat rash. I was able to get past the wound on my leg. I was able to get past the wound on my head. It was through her support. I had to rely on her strength. And that's the same thing that God is looking for us to do. Because in our community, like the psalmist said in our Bible memory verse, we are going to need the strength of the Lord, because what's going to be conjured up in the community is bullying, is ridicule, is someone treating someone cruel and harsh in the community, saying bad things, ugly things, unrighteous things. someone laughing about somebody, someone trying to make somebody feel bad. That's the norm. And because that is the norm, what the Bible is saying, we have to be in a position where when our ability, to resist that or to keep that from our ability to keep that force from moving closer in our life is waning, we need to be able to turn to God, who gives us the strength to truly resist these things. I'm reminded when I was in customer service I was account representative at one point in time with AT&T, and that some customers, they would call in, and you have to have a certain etiquette and a professional etiquette. And some customers, they would call in and they would just be on a tangent. And if you're not careful, they'll say things to you that you can take personally. And if you take them personally, they'll pull you in. In other words, your feelings about what they say about you will cause you to lash back out at them. But guess what? You lose because you are the person that they are calling. So what you have to do, and what you've been trained to do, is to address that sentiment, that ridicule, that harsh treatment in a way that allows the issue to be addressed and not you take it personally. And what I had to learn as a child of God, I had to learn that their problem is not with me. They didn't call there because of me. They called there because of the company. So I had to learn to separate that ridicule, or otherwise it would get in the way of me accomplishing things. It could have caused me to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, which would have only negatively impacted me. So my knowledge of God helped me to be able to separate what went on, what goes on there versus what happens in my life. That's what reading the word came in. It helped me go to the source of my true strength. And God would always open my eyes and allow me to see a path forward that I could walk in, whether it's things that I could say or something that I could do. Because that's where my true strength lies. I had reached the end of my own strength. I can be involved in some conversations with even people today, executives. Don't completely agree with what they say or their rationale. But I have to manage the expectations. And so what we have to recognize is that when we get to the end of our own strength, who do we go to? That's why the psalmist said, the Lord is my strength, because I know I can go to God when I reach the end, when I reach what I don't know what to do or which direction to go in. I know that I can turn to the Lord. When we are interacting with other people in the community and they're standing in the way of us, and we find ourselves not making ground toward our objectives, I know I can turn to God for guidance. Another area that challenges us is this notion of persecution. Persecution. It too challenges our strength. What does it mean to be persecutions? Well, in persecutions, you can be harassed or punished in a manner that's designed to injure you, grieve you, or afflict you, to cause you to suffer because of your belief. This happens to many of God's people many times. Because of the way that we believe, because of the way that you carry yourself, because of the way that you speak, because of the things, the values that you hold, the positions that you maintain, it can cause you to suffer in the presence of other people in the community. Because the way that you believe is not popular. This is seen throughout the word. Daniel was one example of this happening in the word. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And even Jesus versus the chief priests. The chief priests were trying to persecute Jesus. They were trying to kill Jesus. They were trying to trap Jesus, trying to catch him in saying the wrong thing. Now, I'm pointing this out is because their intention was to persecute him. Let me give you an example of this harassment. Go with me to St. Matthew, over in St. Matthew, the 15th chapter. St. Matthew 15, verse 1. Let me have a reader there.
Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them, Why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and thy mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death.
So what I want you to understand is this interaction here. I want you to understand the interaction of the people. Now, these are people that Jesus encountered during the course of his day. Now, I want you to answer this question. Think about this answer to this question as we do this. Did Jesus deliberately seek out these people, or did these people seek out Jesus to start picking a fight? That's what I want you to think about here. And while you're doing that, I want you to hear the same story in the book of St. Mark. So flip from St. Matthew and go over to St. Mark 7. And I want you to read the same story. Excuse me. This time, when you read the story, I want you to notice what the Bible says about the intentions of the people.
Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault.
The Bible said they found what now?
Fault.
Fault. So does it sound like they were there to encourage Jesus, to give Jesus support and strength? Or does it sound like they were there to be stumbling blocks in Jesus' path?
Stumbling blocks in Jesus' path.
The word said that they found fault when they were looking for something and they found fault. That's what the Bible says. Continue reading.
By the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they washed their hands off. They washed their hands off. Eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? He answered and said unto them, Well have Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Albeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandment of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many others such like things ye do. And he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition.
Hear what Jesus is saying to the Pharisees and the scribes. The Bible said that they came to him with the intention of harassing him. They came to him with the intention of causing him to suffer because of his belief. So when you encounter people who, like when he encountered these people, surely he wasn't expecting these people to be supportive of him. If he was arm wrestling, their intention would be to push him back away from his belief. They would be the opposition because they're trying to harass him.
Oh, praise be to God, from whom all blessings flow. It is our prayer at Clay Family Ministries that your life has been increased with the increase of God through this study. We appreciate and are thankful for your fellowship during this life skills study segment.